Welcome into Panini Primetime, right here from the Creators and Predators studio. It is time to tackle everything Senior Bowl, Panini Senior Bowl, that is. And folks, don't worry, I'm not doing it alone. That way you don't have to look at my ugly mug all night long. I've got Jason Patterson in here to talk with me, as well as we've got some Razorbacks, 6 of them, in fact, in Mobile, looking to make a name for themselves, Jason, and quote unquote rut up the Senior Bowl.
So I think, if I'm not mistaken, Arkansas is the team that has the second most seniors at the Senior Bowl for one school this year, with 6. And it's nice to see that there is some representation. But whenever you got a 2-10 team with a high-powered offense and a porous defense, I was surprised to see that there were 3 defensive players that were invited to the Senior Bowl this year.
Yeah, you look at Sorey, you look at Neal, and then you look at Cam Ball. All 3 of those players are in Mobile, as well as Taylor Green, Fernando Carmona, and Mike Washington. And when you look across the game, there's talent everywhere from all levels. And we here at 4-Star Sports Media are going to cover that as well. We're going to look at 2 young Bryson East, Ron Crawford, who are from the Memphis area. Then we'll do a national spotlight on Diego Pavia. It's a player that's a pretty popular topic today. We've got an article out at 4star.live on each of these different players. Now, we're also going to look at Charles Demings from Stephen F. Austin. Jason, when you look at that number of players that we're going to cover specifically, but then you look at the roster as a whole, what is a player or two as we get started here tonight on the Welcome Hill episode 1 of Panini Primetime? What are some players on the rest of the roster that you have your eye on?
Well, I know you talked about Diego, and you cannot help but look at the guy as a lightning rod for attention there. And if you look at some of these teams that are going into next year, you still have some teams in the NFL that are still trying to sort out their head coaching searches. So in theory, you're evaluating, but you don't know who to be evaluating quite yet, because I know that you've got the owner and the GM that kind of have a direction of where they want to go with the team. But at the same time, if you're giving a little bit of that control to your head coach that's coming in, it's almost like a lame duck evaluation, other than, okay, these are the measurables that we have on these guys, which you probably get better measurables going into, and I know them probably kind of dive bombing this a little bit, but it's the honest truth here at this point, is you're getting a lot more of the measurables either at the Pro Day or at, as I like to call it, the Underwear Olympics, also known as the NFL Combine. And a couple of guys that I do want to look at really quick, and one of the ones that is an Arkansas Razorback, Mike Washington Jr. He's a guy that came off of, it was a great offensive year for Arkansas. He had over 1,000 yards offense, transfer from New Mexico State. And when I first saw him, and you get an up close look at him, you know that guy is a dude, and he is going to be a great addition, I think personally, for a 2-headed back offense in the NFL, because he's really strong between the tackles. He has a lot of burst, and also he has a little bit of shiftiness that you would want to see at that second level with linebackers. So I really feel like, even though he was running behind it was an improved Arkansas line, but it wasn't the best line, he still got 1,000 yards through an SEC season. There were some people that I did tell that I thought that might be the second coming of Darren McFadden at the time, because of the way that he ran so violently. You see that, and I know that some of these scouts are going to see that whenever they start to evaluate him over the next 5 days. That was one of the ones that the 2 that I really kind of look at, because yes, you've got Diego Pavia. I didn't really go too deep on who else is there, because I want to leave a little bit towards the end of the show. I wanted to put out a couple for right now and then tease a little bit later on as well, because I mean, we're going to be here for an hour, and I feel like we can do some folks some justice and kind of propping their situation up a little bit to make some money, because these next 5 days are going to set them apart a little bit from the rest of the folks there at the Senior Bowl. And then you start to get those combine invites trickling in if they haven't already received them, and or they may know behind closed doors, they just can't say quite yet. But whenever that's whenever they start to get the, like I said, the better grades as far as from an evaluator's perspective. But today and this week, this is more just kind of like the sniff test. Everybody's at the dog park kind of checking everybody out, making sure that what they saw on film and on TV is exactly what they're getting. And then they can start to deep dive and kind of focus in and narrow some of their searches.
It's a great point, man. And what a way to describe this week. A sniff test of every NFL team with the top players from across the country. And, we're partnering with two of the top brands in the Memphis area, Jason. First off, it's Craters and Freighters. We got to give a personal thank you to Craters and Freighters Memphis. They specialize in crating and shipping high value, hard to move projects, whether it's something you just don't want to deal with, right? You got a big awning, you got a big piece of machinery, whether it's museum pieces, whatever it is, they will build the crate for you, come to your house, pick it, crate it for you, ship it out, whether that's local, whether that's domestic across the country, or even international. Craters and Freighters Memphis will get you taken care of. And then, Jason, we're partnering with the Chris Hope Foundation. Later in the show, we'll have a moment of hope where I will kind of speak a little bit personal as well. But we're partnering with them all week for our written coverage. And Chris Hope Foundation, helping families whose children are battling life-threatening illnesses. It's football, but it's also a lot bigger. Jason, let's get into the first segment here as we talk about a couple of groups, a couple of states that are a couple of schools, really. Memphis, the Memphis area, the 901, as it's known. Then you've got Arkansas. Arkansas brings a sextet, and that is 6 people, by the way, folks. A sextet of players to Mobile. So let's start there, Jason. It's a wave of talent. You got interior defenders with some SEC snap counts against playoff teams. You got offensive linemen who I think are some of the top in the draft. Then you got a quarterback that is probably one of the most polarizing names in the entire deal, and that's Taylor Green. You look at his traits, they're through the roof. You look at his ability to get the ball down the field, but also his ability to run like a gazelle and completely leave you. What's your thoughts? You've been covering these guys. You've been covering this Arkansas program for a lot of time. That's why we got you on the air to start the week to get a flag planted in the Arkansas players. What's your thoughts on this group coming down to Mobile?
I'm looking at Taylor Green, and he did have a little bit of regression from first year under Bobby Petrino to second year, which is not characteristic of most quarterbacks that have been in Bobby's system. Usually you look at year 2 and fans are licking their chops because they know about what's about to come in. They understand that at this point, going into a second season under Bobby's system, it's more of read and react than think, process, react, then throw or make a decision. So that's where I really feel like he kind of regressed a little bit. And I think that one of the big key pieces that some of these scouts are going to look at with Talon is his throwing motion. Because whenever he has that little sidearm that he does, play in and play out, I really feel like this is something that they may see as a hindrance than a help. And let's face it, whenever you are going from college to NFL and they're trying to mess with your throwing motion, if that's what they did, if they feel like they need to, then there's a possibility he may go to wide receiver at some point. like Felipe Franks did. That's another guy that Arkansas had come in and did pretty good under Sam Pittman here at Arkansas for his 1 year, and then jumped to the NFL, caught on with the Atlanta Falcons, and then before you know it, he's moving from a backup quarterback, third, fourth string, to now he's a wide receiver slash tight end. Talon has some intangibles that and measurables that not a lot of people can keep up with, because I look at him and he almost reminds me a little bit of Kyle Pitts, not as beefed up as Kyle Pitts is, but does pose a large target mismatch with either a nickel DB or a weak side linebacker, which is what he would probably be matching up with in pro style offenses. So I foresee him almost maybe venturing into that area, and I know that he's going to get that question, because you see how he read reacts. You've seen how he locks onto one receiver. He has a really hard time getting his eyes up down the field. Everything is within 7 yards and in. That sort of thing is going to get you killed in the NFL. And if he cannot bust out of that mold, he needs to probably switch positions, which he could do great, because he has, like I said, some intangibles where he has some great running ability. He's had over 1,300 yards over the last 2 years playing quarterback. He's been second on the team the last 2 years in rushing. So at that point, if he's got the hands, which you can work on, he has the speed, he has the shiftiness, he has the maneuverability within a defense that he can kind of zig and zag a little bit. And I think that might be where he might be best fit.
Very interesting take. Panini Primetime, the one-stop shop, your national stop for all things Panini Senior Bowl from a game perspective, but also from some more specific perspective. We're talking about the Arkansas Razorbacks. Got Jason Patterson in here. And Jason, more than any other All-Star game, this week in Mobile moves draft boards. A good week can turn a day 3 afterthought into a day 2 lock. A bad week can drop you completely off of draft room list. You talked about Talon. A player that I really have circled is Cam Ball. I'm really interested to see how he can do this week in the one-on-one drills. We know the one-on-one drills are key. Cam Ball came in today, 6'3", 313 in the measurements. Speaking of measurements, Talon was 6'6", 229. Good God. Fernando Carmona, 6'4", 318. Cam Ball, 6'3", 313. Xavier Sori, 6'1", 220. Mike Washington, 6 foot, 228, son. That boy is a hoss coming at you. Then Julian Neal, 6'1", 202. Jason, when you look at those measurements and you talked about Talon, 6'6", 229, that gets some scouts' attentions very quickly.
Okay, got it. Sorry, go ahead, Wes. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty on my side for just a second. Can you repeat that?
Oh, no, I was just making the statement that 6'6", 229 for Talon Green. That's going to get some scouts' attentions quickly.
Yeah, I think he can really beef up from that side. I really do. See if that works any better. Anyway, so that being at 229, you could probably beef him. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I mean, you can beef this guy up to 250 pretty quick and fill that spot, and you probably carry the weight too pretty well, and probably not lose a lot of speed. But with that's kind of where because I was looking at it this afternoon, and I thought, this kid's got some intangibles, but at the same time, he has something that you can't teach, you can't grow unless something crazy happens. But that's why I really was kind of led to believe that I think that he might go in the direction of getting out of the quarterback spot, because listen, he had a hard time catching up with some of the speed of the game, and I know that that's what Bobby Petrino was pretty frustrated with for a certain point in time, and the thought that they were going to be able to get that solved over last offseason, which they didn't, and he gets locked in on that one wide receiver like we talked about. But whenever you have somebody that's that size that still has athletic ability to play at a professional level, then you start to find different spots to put him in, because people that are his size that move as fast as he can don't come around but maybe 4 or 5 guys a year, because he has a slender build, which he can carry some muscle. Dude look chiseled this year. He can probably put on 15, 20 more pounds, still not lose that speed. That's where I think that that's why some of the you see these measurables. I don't think that they're going to stop. I think he's going to grow a little bit more in that area.
Well, and that's you actually took my next point. It's actually sitting there on my talking point on my list here is that I expect Taylor to even get taller as he gets a little bit older. But Jason, let's jump over to a couple of kids from the Memphis area. We've got Bryson Eason, young man played at Tennessee. Then you got Kieran Crawford, young man played at Alabama. Two menacing, nasty big men are down in Mobile this week. Born in the 901, Bryson Eason came on. He played at Whitehaven High School, and then Kieran Crawford, young man out of Briarcrest High School, there in the Memphis area. Different schools, Jason, but they still bring the same Memphis edge. What's your thoughts on these two young men coming out of the SEC?
Sorry, Wes. I'm still dealing with some stuff over here.
Oh, you're good, buddy. You're good.
Hey, go ahead and kick me
Um,
off for a second. Go ahead and take us for a minute. I'm going to try to
sure.
figure out something.
Okay. When you look at Bryson Eason and you look at um, Kieran Crawford. Both players from the Memphis area bring that Memphis edge. You look at Bryson Eason's tape, very heavy handed defender, can really anchor against double teams as well. If you look at him, if you look at his tape this season, he's faced many double teams. As he's a extremely strong and powerful defender. He's got the flash, but he also has enough burst to collapse the pocket. And what I really enjoy about him is how low he plays. When you look at him, the way he utilizes his leverage, almost like a veteran player, not a kid that's still kind of learning pad level, which is what Bryson's been able to do. But you see Bryson, and then you look at it on the other side of the thing. You look at this week, the practices. You're going to be able to see pretty quickly who has more of a grown man strength and who's just big, as we used to say back in the day, big for no reason. When you look at Eason, he's got that grown man strength. He's got that capability uh, to be able to really string some dominant reps together. And I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for down here in Mobile. You're looking for guys who can string together not only reps in a repetitive form, but can string together 3 good days of practice. Because if you can string together those days of practice, like Jason and I have been talking about, you can make a name for yourself, and you can really uh, come away as a legit early day conversation down in Mobile. Because if you can get into conversation, you can make things happen. But then you go on the other side, you got Kieran Crawford uh, from Auburn. He's an offensive line version of no drama. He comes at you. There's not a lot of panic when you look at this kid on film, and I've watched every single one of these players that we're looking at. I have watched them on film. Believe me, he really just gives you clean sets. He's got a great base. Like I said, there's not a lot of panic in him. And Jason, looks like we got Jason back in here. Jason, let me
Yeah.
get your thoughts on. I've been talking about Bryson Eason a little bit from Tennessee. Both young men from Memphis.
Mhm.
They both have that Memphis edge. What's your thoughts on these two young men coming out of the Southeastern Conference?
I was hearing him talk about a little bit about Kieran, and his one of his strengths is the point of attack, making sure getting into favorable situations whenever he's pass rushing, and he would be really good as a strong side on a 4-3, but he would be even better, I think, on the inside on a 3-4. There's still a couple of still NFL teams that still run the 3-4, and I think that he would be better set to go to a team that has that because he's able to use his speed, but also use his strength inside on the run help, and that's where I think that he could really make some, you know, splashes there at the Senior Bowl because whenever you get in front of these guys, it does not matter what happened the last 12, 13, 14 games that you played during the season. What you're looking at right now is you're there to impress, 64 eyes, 32 teams. And if you can get at least two guys that can see your flash, perfect. Bryson Eason, he also has a little bit, a little bit of a mean streak in him. And you saw that against Arkansas, and that's where I really think if he can get a couple of one-on-ones where he's able to get a guy a little off balance, beat him, maybe like a Trey Zune from Texas A&M or Demetrius Crownover, a couple of guys that were a little bit bigger than him, but he can get some leverage on them and score a couple of good, solid reps, and then perform during the Senior Bowl on its culmination on Saturday. I really feel like he could pop a little bit. These it, these coaching staffs that they're going to be working with are constantly talking to all of these scouts because they know there's a lot of familiarity with the coaches that are going to be there versus with the scouts that are going to be there too. And these coaches also kind of know exactly what these scouts are looking for. They're going to give these guys some tips and be like, hey, this guy over here from, say, the Tennessee Titans, for instance, they're looking for some inside help, but they're needing a guy that can do X, Y, and Z. If you can do that, that's what you need to be doing on these reps because that's going to make you pop just a little bit more. And then when you get into the game, keep trying those X, Y, and Z's because if they see the familiarity and they see the consistency, that's going to make you more appealing in the draft.
It's a great point. It's a great point, Jason. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to look at this game from more of a city view and also a little bit of a as well. All that and more right here on Panini Primetime, presented by 4 Star Sports. All right, welcome back in to Panini Prime Time, presented by 4 Star Sports Media. We are being anchored by, being shipped out by the best. Look, just like all the players in this game, Jason, when you want to invest, when you're looking for somebody to invest in to make sure that you get to where you need to go, Craters and Freighters is look. They are your number one place. If your shipment is too big, too heavy, too fragile, or too important for standard shipping, they step in with custom crating, professional packing, door-to-door freight solutions. From studios, sets to equipment to sensitive equipment, they move the matters when it matters most. Reach out to Craters and Freighters Memphis, cratersandfreightersmemphis.com for more information and to let the experts do the heavy lifting for you. Jason, when you look at the city of Mobile, it's the original Mardi Gras city, in America. Yes, folks.
Nice.
The original Mardi Gras city in America. That's why I wanted to throw this segment in here to just do a little education. So before New Orleans made it famous on national TV, Mobile, Alabama had floats, parades, and a tradition. And this week, that energy collides with football. If you've never been to Senior Bowl week, it's not just a game, it's a full on festival. You've got NFL scouts and GMs grabbing gumbo. So good. Grabbing gumbo and watching practice tape in restaurants at night. Fans mixing with players' families, which is a really underrated part of this game, is interacting with the families of these players that are all down here. But families and everyone talking ball from breakfast to midnight because, Jason, that environment matters. These players thrive in the chaos. They stay locked in during all the noise. But when you look at the movement this week and you look at how everything goes, Jason, as we celebrate Mobile on Friday night, uh, the parade, that is the first parade of Mardi Gras season. I don't know if you've been down, Jason, but the Mardi
No.
Gras parades are a lot of fun, man. So Mobile is a beautiful place. It's a lot of fun. The people are very loving. They're very open, and the
Mm-hmm.
people in Mobile, the locals, love this football game. The
So,
support is through the roof, man.
mhm. I'm gonna Jason this for a second, and you're probably need to take yourself off camera and laugh and come back on here in just a second. But um, well, first off, wow, for the home of Mardi Gras. Okay, did they move it to New Orleans because they have more beads? I
No,
mean,
it's just that's
uh,
where it all originated from. Was
did the beads originate in Mobile or did they originate in? Uh,
Mobile.
so the beads originated in Mobile.
Yep, everything did. So it all originated the entire Mardi Gras season.
Uh huh.
It all started the festival, the parade, all that started in Mobile.
Did
And
did New
it's
Orleans have
I,
prettier
I don't
women?
I don't want to give it away, but we got an article coming out tomorrow
Yeah.
on this exact topic that Jason and I are discussing right now, our history, because it's one part of this week that I love. I love Mardi Gras season. I love the fact that this town, this city just embraces it, just hugs it. Just, oh, God, I love it. I love it, man. And Mardi Gras is a lot of fun.
Now,
And go ahead.
here, let me ask you this real quick. Does New Orleans have prettier women than Mobile? Because the last time I checked, there was prettier women in Alabama than there is in Louisiana. Because I mean, the last time I checked, Bobby Boucher's mama was still down in Louisiana. And if you got any of the ladies that look anything like that down there, you probably don't want to mess with it anyway. I don't understand why they had to move it to from Mobile to New Orleans, other than the fact that it may have gotten too big and they can afford the infrastructure to hold it. But um, I really feel like they probably should have left it in Mobile because I've always been told that there's some pretty women in Alabama, and you don't. I mean, you basically have Southern belles versus alligators.
And Jason's right, folks. Uh, that's why I took myself off camera. There's one thing
I knew I
that
was going
you
to get
will
you with that
learn
one. I knew I was going to get you. That's why I was
if
like,
you
just take
have
yourself off now.
followed our work. Every time this man comes on our air, it doesn't matter when it is, he's going to say something that's going to get me laughing. And
I will derail
Jason,
the heartbeat
I'm glad you did that, man. And Jason, it actually takes me into the next segment,
Signetti.
um, Signetti. Um, but it takes me into the next segment, man, and it's one that I know you and I have had many conversations with off air. It's a personal one. It's called the Moment of Hope, and it's a segment that I wanted to start this week. We're partnering with the Chris Hope Foundation. For those of you who don't know who they are, like I said earlier, they empower families battling childhood illness and support education at the unbreakable spark of hope. And talked about a little bit about it last night. I'm going to go a little deeper tonight, and I'll be honest. This part may become emotional. When you people that know me, people that truly know me, understand that 4 years ago, everything for me changed.
It did.
And it started in Mobile because that gave Four Star Sports Media a national spotlight. At the time, we were the only brand from the city of Memphis covering Calvin Austin and Dylan Parham in Mobile. To some, that's small. To people with a brain, that's massive. But this is the moment of hope, and it's brought to you in partnership by the Chris Hope Foundation. And I want to share a piece of my journey after uh, a heart attack that took place in June of 2022. It's not just about survival, it's about how you got to find your therapy. And I've used sports media, I've used journalism, I've used preparing podcasts as that for me. And learning how to lean on hope has pulled me through some very, very quiet battles. But I want you guys to picture this, okay? I'm in Mobile, Alabama, covering the Senior Bowl for us. The energy electric scouts are buzzing, standing next to Dan Marino as Calvin Austin burns a guy down the sidelines. And Dan Marino goes, damn. And I looked at him and I said, he'll do it every time. He said, who is that? I said, it's Calvin Austin Jr. from Memphis. Walk. But I'm living my passion. I'm building this network and I'm feeling on top of the world.
Screw the haters.
Exactly. Just days after this, I'm at a wrestling event and I snap a picture with former NWA champion Tim Storm at a Bayou Independent Wrestling event. Just after that, everything would shatter. Living in South Arkansas, uh, I had a massive heart attack. I drove myself to the hospital. A lot of this is a blur for me. And all I could think was, will I ever see my wife again? That's it. The physical recovery was not easy. But the mental side of this has been a real game changer. Anxiety has struck, heart racing over the simplest of things, depression wrecking me some days. It may be beautiful outside and I may be smiling, but inside, depression can wreck. There's times I stare at my laptop, or there's times that I would stare at my laptop and wonder if I've ever even write an article or break down Arkansas or anyone else for that matter. And there's times when you work and you fight and you push and you lose yourself. And that's where my wife became my anchor. The short walks with our three dogs, the conversations.
Good old Bojangles.
Oh yeah. And on bad days, she just sit with me. There was no pressure to fix anything. It was, hey, Wes, today's okay. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another play. Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, my family has stayed very close with me throughout this process. Just little text stuff like that. It goes a long way. But I talked about sports and therapy, sports and media, and that really became a medicine for me. And in the 4 years, because this is happening now. In the 4 years since this, uh, I've been able to do things like this, open up and talk. Because Jason can tell you, Jason's been around this entire time. I did not talk about this for almost 2 years, and in those 2 years, um, I'll be honest with you, I had some dark times. I had some times that were very scary. I still have times that are scary, but when I do, I lean on my wife. I lean on people like Jason, and probably many others that are watching and listening right now. And I appreciate each and every one of you. But writing honors for 4 star, it let me process the chaos. It turned pain into stories that might help someone else. And it wasn't about the big wins. It was daily reps. Honestly, it's relying on hope, almost like I'm a coach. And when I reached out and Chris Hope Foundation agreed to be partner with this, I just it ties right in, man. For those of you that don't know, I was born a premature baby in 1985, pound and a half, dropped to a pound 3. I spent a large portion of my life inside Le Bonheur Hospital. And 40 years later, Chris Hope Foundation now has their own NICU unit that would have helped my family. So, as we're back this year in Mobile, I'm carrying a lot of hope. And I understand I'm emotional right now, but, uh, you know, I don't think people understand just just what all has been put into this. Um, and Jason, I tell you, man, sports is a very strong thing. But Jason, what's your thoughts on hope? And I mean, you've been right there with me this entire time, man.
Yeah, and it all depends on your support system, really, honestly. Because if you surround yourself with good people, then they're going to be able to pull you through trying times. I mean, hell, this is something that even my girlfriend Casey and I talked about recently. You know, whenever you have a good support system to be able to lean on somebody and you're not used to leaning on somebody and you've been independent for so long, it doesn't matter if it's a guy or girl, you know, you have that person you can lean on. That's where it really comes into play. And that's whenever you really understand and know that you've made the great life choices that you should be going the direction that you are in. Because whenever you get into those moments, I guarantee you that you're going to find somebody in your life that you probably shouldn't be around. They show themselves pretty quickly, and then you cut ties and move on, addition by subtraction. But that's what's great about this. The Hope Foundation is that they're providing a lot of resources for folks that need resources at a time where they shouldn't be thinking about anything else other than their loved one that needs to either have medical help or recovery of some point. Because listen, I've been a nurse for 11 years, almost 11 years now, and it's not dark, it's just a moment of feeling alone on an island when you're sitting in a hospital room by yourself, not knowing what's going to happen next. Only thing that you know that you're there for is the next step, and you can't do anything about it. And that helplessness is what gets a lot of people, that gets them into those dark times. It gets them into those rabbit holes. And when you got somebody that can send you a text message, a call, stop by the hospital just to be able to say, hey, for a second, the folks that are helping take care of their loved one that's in the hospital need support too. And I think that what they provide is a great service. And also just, if you got some family or loved ones that are having to spend some extended periods of time in the hospital, they need support too. Find out if they need anything. And I think that's one of the biggest key takeaways is making sure that the people that are there also need to get that support as well.
Man, 1,000% correct. And we appreciate everything that the Chris Hope Foundation has done for us. All right, Jason, let's jump over to a little bit of an analysis and prediction segment as we look at a national board watch powered by Creators and Freighters, as we're looking to see who can move up, who can move down, but who is locked in. It's time for the Creators and Freighters National Board Watch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jason, talking Arkansas here. Give me one Razorback most likely to become a national name by the end of this week.
Fernando Carmona in the story. I mean, point blank range. He moved from right tackle to inside because Sam Pittman told him that was going to be his meal ticket going into the NFL was interior line. He can play all 5 positions. They're gonna see where a guy that came in and transformed his body from a tackle spot to an interior spot. Because if you look at it, the guys on the inside are built more like blocks. They're not that not I wouldn't say they're slender. They're more sculpted physique on the outsides because you got to be able to move with the defensive end. But those guys on the interior line are built like blocks, just like Carmona. I know that they have him listed at 318. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a guy that can get up to like maybe 330 at some point without really kind of losing a lot of his leverage and also his maneuverability inside between that center and tackle spot. He's a guy that I really feel like can shoot up. You look at Julian Neal, he's projected to be a third, fourth rounder, a second day kind of guy. I really feel like Carmona can be another one of those guys because of his ability to read a defense, also being able to move in multiple spots throughout the line.
I tell you, he does have a lot of versatility on
Mhm.
that line for sure. For sure. All right, Jason, when you look at the Memphis guys, I know we're only focusing on a pair, but when you look at the two Memphis guys, which one of them has a bigger chance, do you think, to explode this week?
Honestly, I really feel like Kieran Crawford does because with his size and speed, you can do a lot of things with him base wise on either with a 3-4 or a 4-3. It doesn't matter which system you put him in because he can create a little bit more of a mismatch. Even though he's 251, hell, Dwight Freeney was 260. So I'm not saying that he has Dwight Freeney's speed, but if he can get Dwight Freeney type leverage, he can work on the inside and juke a guy that he goes outside, then back inside. And quick swim move, and before you know it, now he's on the interior side causing havoc with your quarterback. I really feel like Kieran Crawford is that guy.
All right, Jason. We talked earlier national spotlight here, and we talked about Diego Pavia, and
Mhm.
he's a guy that a few weeks ago on a show I said, look, he really hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes off the field. Now, is he pompous? Hell yeah. But on the field, he plays pretty
I call
well.
it
Pretty,
confidence, though, man. I wouldn't call
yeah,
it
yeah.
I call it confidence. You got
It
a
is.
lot
It
of it.
is. It is. It is pure confidence. You're exactly right. He's a chaos creator, dual threat, competitive. He plays with that chip on his shoulder, like we're talking about. He doesn't have to be perfect. He just needs 3 or 4 wow plays
Mhm.
to make scouts rewind the tape, Jason. And then we're also looking at Charles Demings, young man from Stephen F. Austin, a long, confident guy, loves man coverage. If he can pick off a pass or two or undercut a route in front of some scouts, you may hear his name on not just our podcast, but other podcasts as well by the weekend. And Jason, at the onset of the show, we were talking about players, and you said you had your eyes on some guys nationally.
Mhm.
Uh, who who are you looking at outside of the two, obviously, that we're talking about? But who are you looking at?
Right now, one of the kids that was really kind of showcased at SEC Media Days had a solid season for Texas, which is safety Michael Taff. I really feel like he's one of those guys that could come in and create a lot of noise for himself this weekend. Um, I don't think it's something where you can just really kind of look at him and go, okay, this guy can hit. I mean, this guy can play because I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that comes in and may play free safety and may play a little bit of corner or a nickel, in coverage, just in specific spots. I really feel like he is one of those guys. Another one is Dartmouth offensive lineman Derby Lemieux. Yeah, I really feel like this guy can go, and he kind of reminds me of Jeff Saturday a little bit, where super smart guy comes in and is able to have a little bit of nastiness with it. I mean, he is listed at 305, but again, he's another guy that you can also pack some pounds on, like we talked about with Taylor Green earlier. He's got the frame that you can build off of that a little bit. So if it's one of those guys that can he's got everything that you would like to have between the ears, and he also already has the base frame. You can just kind of build from there. I think that those are two of the guys that you can really really look at from a national perspective.
Well, man, I mean, we call it Craters and Freighters Board Watch because this is about movement, prospects moving up boards, lives moving forward. And when something that important has to move, you trust a specialist. And that specialist that we trust is Craters and Freighters. They move the largest, most fragile shipments. These guys are trying to move the most fragile thing in football, their draft stock, without a misstep. Tonight's board watch powered by Craters and Freighters Memphis, custom crating, export packing, and full freight services for the projects other companies don't want to touch. If it's big, it's so big. If it's big, heavy, fragile, or complicated, that's their favorite kind of job. Jason, you actually just answered. Old Jay started at 1985, which is maybe the second longest Twitter name ever. But you just answered Jay started at 1985, which is AKA John started.
We need
You
those
just
start
answered
alerts.
start alerts.
Start
We got
alerts.
to start alert. Hold on, man. Hold on. Do I have a little? Do I have a little?
Oh, by the way, Michael
Go ahead.
Tapp kind of reminds me of Cooper DeJean. That's who I was trying to remember on why kind of is where he kind of fits in. I really feel like he could play that type, or maybe even oh, dude over in at Minnesota, Harrison. I forgot his last name off the top of my head. Those two guys he kind of reminds me of a little bit.
Just a dog. All right, man. We got about roughly 10 minutes left, Jason. So we just kind of set the table. We got 6 Razorbacks, 2 Memphis born big men, a gunslinging, polarizing quarterback, and a long, confident corner that are all stepping into the brightest audition of their lives this week. We've been live from the Craters and Freighters studio right here in Mobile, Alabama, every night this week, 8 p.m. Central, and every written recap and article will be published is in support of the Chris Hope Foundation. Jason, if you love the draft, if you love underdogs and risers, this is your show right here all week. Give me some final thoughts, Jason, as we embark on starts tomorrow, man. Practices get cranked up tomorrow morning. What's your thoughts on this Mobile Senior Bowl 2026?
Well, first off, it all depends on who starts fast. Happens with every college football team on week 1. It's the same thing this week. Whenever those guys strap the pads on and they run out there and they start doing drills, it's going to be who starts fast more than anything else. If you can get a fast start and make a little bit of flash, that's going to set you up, as you were talking earlier about stacking days. How'd they do on Tuesday? Did they have any regression to Wednesday? Whenever they start to put in more the offense and defense on day 3, how are they looking? Are they able to take in all the information that they're being thrown at? Because what's going to be happening this week, and I've talked to Pat Jones about this a little bit too, former Oklahoma State Hall of Fame coach, and also coached in the NFL for a few years. He's always talked about whenever you have guys that come in, can they also adapt to the terminology? Can they, take in everything that that's being thrown at them? Because you're trying to drink through a 5-inch fire hose the first couple of days. These guys, if they are able to, understand the terminology a little bit, understand what they're being asked to do, and executing and stacking days, by the time Thursday rolls around and they have a little bit of an idea of what they're supposed to be doing, that's going to make a huge difference with some of these scouts, because, okay, now these guys are a higher level that can, obtain, process, and then spit back out information that they've been given, because that's what's going to happen in training camp. Whenever you have your minis and your OTAs, that's what's going to happen in June. And then when everybody has to report in late July, those sorts of things are going to be looked at, because they're not going to burn a 5th round pick on an offensive lineman that started for 3 years. He comes in and then you throw a playbook at him and he's looking at you like he's got googly eyes. You cannot have that happen. So the guys that are able to process information, spit it back out, and do it efficiently this week are going to be the guys that are going to have a leg up coming out going into the and to the combine. You know,
Underwear Olympics.
underwear Olympics. Now, here's another thing, because you have a couple of different teams that are still looking for NFL for head coaches. Because you've got the Raiders, they're one, Baltimore Ravens, and you're also looking at the Browns and the Bills, and that those sorts of things. It really kind of it really kind of sets not well. I mean, Buffalo and Baltimore, they're pretty set on their rosters. You're looking at guys for depth, but whenever you're looking at teams like Las Vegas and Cleveland, man, those guys are looking for starters at this point, and that's where some of these guys could really rise up the draft board, and some of these teams make really bad decisions based on personnel and not by need, because they're looking at the guy that can fill the spot, that can maybe plug the hole for the moment, versus a guy that may take a year to develop but will be better in the long run. That's where some of these NFL teams really get caught in a crux. Pittsburgh, for instance, they had to make a hire this week. They had to. They have the draft coming up, and they had to have a splash. It had nothing to do with bringing Aaron Rodgers back. All it had to do was bringing Mike McCarthy, a guy that they can look at and be there for 10 to 15 years, which sounds crazy, but that's what they're looking at. They're not looking for a 3-year fix. They're not looking for a guy that can entice Aaron Rodgers to come back. The last time I checked, you had a quarterback that was Aaron Rodgers' age that came back and played was Phil Rivers, and it didn't go very well. The only guy that could probably pull that off would be Tom Brady, and I don't see that guy coming out of the booth anytime soon.
Hey, we did see today that Philip Rivers did pull out of consideration of a job. So congratulations for him finally pulling out. Jason, when you look at this game, man, it's going to be a lot of fun this week. This is a week, obviously, like I talked about in the moment of hope, man. It's a week that means a lot to me on a personal level, but it also means a lot to me to be able to cover college football on a national level. And that's something that us here at Four Star Sports Media have really, I think, done a really good job over the last 4 years, is branching out and covering sports from more of a national level. And that's what we want to do here. Look, we've been powered. We are going to be powered by Craters and Freighters all week as our official studio. We're
Oh yeah.
also we're also partnering with Chris Hope Foundation, who powers families, empowers families, gives them benefits, gives them avenues during a very, very tough time. This is Panini Primetime. The draft starts here, and we're just getting warmed up, folks. Appreciate everyone watching. Appreciate everyone listening. Of course, Jason Patterson, I appreciate you, my guy.
Anytime.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m., right here on the Four Star Sports Media Network.